Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Chai Chat Show. Now, I don't know how you're watching this or listening to this or reading this or whatever, because I just gave it away really. I'm going to be posting this on 3 different mediums. I'm going to be posting it on YouTube as a video format. If you want to watch it in a video, then yeah, well, YouTube is your way. If you want to listen to it on a podcast, we are now available on Spotify, Apple, and there are some other mediums as well that I'm not entirely sure about. I have applied to Ghana and Savan. If you guys are my Indian fans, I said fans, I feel like a celebrity. I meant to say if you guys are listening to me from India, then excuse me, then you can listen to the podcast on those 2 platforms very, very soon. I'm just waiting for the email at the moment, but it should be all good, fingers crossed. But yeah, and also I'm thinking of posting this as a blog post on my website, but we'll see how that goes. But for now, it's definitely going to be on podcast and definitely going to be in video, but it can also be on blog format if you guys like reading stuff. So yeah, well, anyways, with that introduction, I hope you guys have had a brilliant new year so far. And can you believe nearly 5% of the new year is gone? Or is it 10%? I don't know, something like that. It's crazy, isn't it? Right, so it is Thursday, the 21st of January. I haven't recorded a video in so long. It's actually crazy sitting in front of this camera. But welcome back. This video, as you can probably see from the title, when you've clicked on it, is that I've named it the pressure of being in your 20s. Now, that sounds very pessimistic, I know, but I want to stress before we even get started that I'm not going to be pessimistic in this video. If you're here to just sort of, delve into your sorrows, then this is not really going to be the content for that. I'm sorry. Like I'm going to be discussing a lot of stuff, a lot of the negative quote unquote aspects of being in your 20s, but I'm gonna generally try to be a bit more positive about it and just sort of have a more holistic approach and just view it from like a very high top level sort of aspect. I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah, what I mean to say is it's not going to be a pessimistic video. I'm not going to be just sitting and dwelling on whatever it is feels like being in your 20s, and because I've literally just started. I'm only I think I'm only 5 months in to being a 20-year-old, so forgive me if I don't know everything. But I feel like I've experienced a lot of stuff in the last 3 or 4 months of my 20ness, so I think it's worth sharing this. Because I'm sure that a lot of 20-year-olds, even if you think that they've everyone around just figured everything out, and I'm going to come to that point, it's a very important point that everyone sort of figured everything out. I'm sure most 20-year-olds are as lost as I am in life at the moment, because it's so young, and I'll come back to that point as well. But without dwelling any further, let's get on with the video. So before we get started, I just quickly want to say that I haven't got chai, I've got some water, because I'm not really feeling very well. So chai I don't think would have been very good for me. Second, I want to apologize for the lack of videos that I've posted in this channel, or across my medium that I post, because I haven't been in the best headspace lately. And that's kind of where this video idea sort of stemmed from, is that I've been thinking a lot about different stuff that's going on in my life, and just feeling just feeling down at certain points. So that's why I just wasn't in the best headspace to create. And if any of you that are watching this create content or create anything in any sort of aspect, you'll know how important it is to have a clear mind when you're creating. Because if you're thinking of negative stuff, if you're thinking of stuff that's sort of not related to whatever that is you're creating, it's not going to be your best work. I've tried making videos before this, but it just hasn't been my best work, or I just haven't had the words to speak. So yeah, I'm getting better. I'm improving day by day. But yeah, it's I think, and the weirdest thing is that I've actually researched this, what I'm going through, and apparently it's something called a quarter life crisis. I didn't even know that existed, by the way. I was researching stuff mainly to do with like depression and stuff, because I was just worried that I'm going into depression or whatever. But thankfully I wasn't. I wouldn't call what I was going through depression, but it was bad in certain aspects. But I don't want to dwell into that at the moment. That's something for a different video, I guess. But what, yeah, as I said, what I figured out was apparently there's a thing called a quarter-life crisis. I did not even know. I've heard about midlife crisis mainly from Top Gear, because Richard Hammond never admits that he's 50 or 40 and he never wants to go through his midlife crisis. I'm guessing he is now, but that's the only time I've ever heard of the word life crisis, and it's only tagged onto the midlife sort of aspect, you know, when you're 40 or 50 or whatever. But I didn't know this existed, but apparently it does. And what's the weirdest part on top of that is that I'm not even 25, so I don't know where the quarter life even comes from. Like, I'm 20, I still have 5 years to like get to that quarter life bit. But yeah, it's very weird. It's very weird. But yeah, I guess it exists. I guess you learn something new every day. So yeah, that's partly why I haven't been uploading any videos. So Maafi bhai. As usual, as sort of my ritual that I've learned from the variety of content creators that I watch across YouTube, I'm going to be sort of dividing the key sort of bits into different timestamps, or I think it's still going to be timestamps if it's a podcast. I think, yeah. So it'll be in the show notes or in the description box if you're on YouTube below, the different timestamps of the different, because I'm sure not everyone is going to relate to absolutely everything that I've got to talk about, but I'm sure that everyone who's watching this will relate to at least one part or something in this thing, and I don't want to waste your time by making you go through every single thing. So if you look at the show notes, and if you find one bit that you're like super relatable to you or whatever, then you can just click on that, watch that, or otherwise you can watch the entire video and increase my playtime, please. So it's up to you. Anyways, let's get on with the video. So number uno is that I don't know if you can call it a pressure really, but it's more sort of a feeling, you know, that you have when you're 20, is that you wish you could have tried harder. You know, the regret that you could have tried harder. Now, so let me sort of explain what I'm on about. This is a weird one to explain, but let me try. I've never been the most studious student in the world, but I would say I wouldn't say I'm excellent, but I wouldn't say I'm like average either. I'm sort of in the middle. I'm like the middle sandwich layer. I'm like the creme de la, I'm like the middle of the sandwich. And this was sort of evident with my GCSE grades. I'm gonna take it to my example, this whole thing. So maybe if you can relate, then you can relate. I don't know. So yeah, this was evident throughout my GCSE grades. Like, I scored or got not the most stellar grades ever, but not average either. Like, I was towards the stellar, but I was above average, but towards the sort of good grades. So yeah, I was always in that middle sort of round, and I was happy with that, because I was always happy with that, because that meant I could sort of have a good balance in sort of like academics and also doing other stuff on the extracurriculars basically. So I was always happy with it, and I wanted to keep it like that. But I don't know what exactly happened. Actually, I do know what happened. That's just going into denial again, but no, I know what happened, and I'm going to elaborate on that. But come A-levels, come college basically, I didn't perform as well as I could have. But by no means I got bad grades, but I didn't get any something to shout about either. Like, it was average, middle of the run grades. And I think the biggest problem, or the biggest reason why that happened, is because I probably got complacent to the fact that, oh well, I did fairly good in GCSE. I think I was probably in the top 20% of the people in my GCSE, in the cohort of my GCSE. So, and I was like, well, I did fairly decent, so I'm gonna stick to that, and instead of saying, well, I'm gonna stick to this work ethic, I was like, well, I'm a natural, I can do this. And I became too complacent, and that sort of reflected on my A-level grades. Now, without dwelling on the fact of the grades, I think there's something to learn here. There's two aspects that I really learned after this experience, because I was really disappointed with my grades. Like, I didn't expect those grades, but I got what I got. Like, as I say, it wasn't terrible by any means. Like, it was still good, but it was good average. So if that makes any sense. Right, let me explain what I actually go into the detail of what I actually learned about this. So I learned two things out of that experience. A being play to your strengths. We've all been told since we were young that, or Stardust in fact, that focus on your weaknesses, improve those, build on those, make them better. And by no means do I disagree with that. I totally understand. I totally agree with it, because it's so imperative to do that to build a solid foundation. But I think what's less taught to us or less told to us is that how important it is. But I feel that it's so important that you double or even triple down on your strengths. Like you really focus on your strengths and double down, and don't, because the thing is like, look, as I said before, it's imperative for you to like focus on your weaknesses and improve those, but it's equally or even more important for you to triple down on your strengths, because if you do that, you're on the path to excelling, right? Because by not playing to your strengths, you're stacking the odds against your favor rather than in your favor, because we've all been dealt different hands as humans. We've all been dealt different hands, and we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. Now, if everyone starts focusing on their weakness and think like, well, I'm only going to focus on my weakness and I'm going to try and improve that to the best of my ability, well, first of all, brilliant, that's really good of you to do that. But the thing is, you're stacking the odds against your favor there, because like, if you play to your strengths, just imagine, just really think about just think about the potential that you can go to. So I think I was too hellbent on like, well, from my GCSE times, it's like, oh, I'm weak in these sort of aspects or whatever, so I'm gonna focus on these more and not play to my strengths. I think that's sort of played a big impact on my A-level grades, and it showed, because if I did play to my strength, I think the outcomes could have been much better. So kids, focus on your strengths. I made the mistake of choosing things that I thought would look attractive on my CV, but I sort of disregarded the fact that, do I actually enjoy it? Am I good at it? Rather than choosing things that, you know, oh, this is gonna give me that job prospect or this job I was too focused on that rather than focusing on, do I actually even enjoy it, or am I just looking at it because I want a better job I mean, that's a valid reason to look at it, but it shouldn't be the primary reason you do something, right? So yeah, I'm really, since that I've always been play to your strengths. Look at what you're good at and always play to your strengths. Make sure your weaknesses are worked upon and up to a certain level where you're comfortable with them, but always play like triple, quadruple, pentuple, sextuple, whatever on your strengths. It's that imperative, I feel. Number two, B rather, what I learned is it's much easier to accept failure or a shortcoming in an area where you think you gave your absolute best, instead of accepting that same thing for something that you know you could have easily done a lot better. And I guess this is sort of self-explanatory, really, and I think most of us have probably gone through like that in some sort of shape or another. Let me explain my situation, because this is my podcast, or this is my video, that I chose, amongst other people, you know how they choose at A-level. I love math, so I chose math. I love maths. Yes, I'm a nerd. So I chose maths, and I was really good at it, and I didn't perform as well as I could have, partly because of the previous point. I chose other stuff along it that I wasn't the best at, so it sort of like took my attention away from maths. So I didn't get the grade that I wanted for maths. Fine, whatever. That was really bad. That was probably the most disappointing thing I've had to go through up until this point. After that, another subject I took that I got the same grade for, by the way, for maths, that I got for math, but I wasn't nearly, I was disappointed, but not nearly as disappointed as I was with maths. And I learned something that one day, is that although in that subject that I got the grade for, I put my absolute everything, and that's what I got, and that's fine. But when I talked about math, I got the same grade, but I knew I could have done a lot better. And that for me is really hard to accept. Although the same grades or same sort of results for both aspects or both things, this thing that I know I could have easily aced much better, not getting where I wanted to with that is sort of the harder hit to take. So that's why this point sort of ties back to my original point, is that really focus on your strengths and sort of build around that. Build around your strength rather than building your strengths around your weakness, if that makes any sense. But take your strength and build other things around it, not the other way around, because otherwise you're going to take your energy or focus away from your strength and not even focus on that, because then you'll feel, and if you don't perform on it, you'll feel that'll be heart-wrenching, because you know you could have done so much better. You know your aptitude for that something, and then you'll just not have the best time in the world knowing that I could have done a lot better, because you can't change it anymore. So yeah, that was the two things I sort of learned when I talk about the regret of not trying hard enough. Because yeah, I suppose I could just sit there and dwell on it, but the thing is I learned some good lessons from it. And the lucky thing is that the really lucky thing is that I didn't do terribly well. The really lucky thing is that I didn't do terribly bad. I did good enough, and I got some really good lessons from it, and that will last me for the entire life. Because after that experience, I've gave whatever I've touched or whatever I've started, I've given it my absolute best, whatever I can. Because after that, the result doesn't matter. Once you've given an absolute best to something, the result really doesn't even matter. If you fail, you fail. You pass. You get a distinction, you get a distinction, whatever. Because you've given it your best. You can't have possibly given it any more, within reason, that is. Because, someone could be working 24 hours, that's just a different story now altogether. But if you've given your absolute best, then whatever the outcome is, the outcome. It doesn't matter anymore, does it? Because you can't have possibly done anything else. So I feel like, yeah, give it your best shot, but play tactically as well. It's about working smart as well as hard, not just one in itself. So yeah, enough rambling. That's sort of what my take on regretting of not trying hard enough. And I'm sure, I think most of the people who are watching it probably aced the A-levels. So I don't think this is probably relevant to you either. So for the few majority of people that this might be relevant to, you're not alone, boys and girls. You're not alone, but think of this as a lesson. Think of this as a way to improve, and everything you touch, everything you do after that, just ace it. Just absolutely give it your best and keep your strengths in your focus. Numero deux. Right, I should have focused more on French, man. It was an interesting language. Anyways, numero deux. Feeling behind in life. This is quite an interesting one. This is very good, actually. This is a very interesting one to talk about. So let's paint the situation. And I don't know how many people this will apply to, but still, let's paint the situation. So you see your other friends around you that you've sort of studied with up to this point. You feel like they're graduating. Some older friends, they're probably doing their masters or getting a really paid job, really well paid job. Or maybe you look at your older cousins or even older friends or seniors or whatever. They're getting married, having kids, or whatever, or going to travel places, holidays and stuff. I don't know, whatever. There's a myriad of things that you can think of, really. And you feel like you sort of revert to all around and back to yourself, and you feel like, damn it, life sucks. Sound familiar? I know it does, because that's kind of the show reel that's been going on in my head for the last 6 months. I know it does. And it's very normal, I feel, now, after having gone through it for the last 3 or 4 months or 6 months or whatever. I think I feel like it's quite normal, and it happens to everyone. And so, you know what the funniest part is? If you were to tell me all of this, in a maybe I don't know, 8 months before, 8 or 9 months before, I wouldn't have even given it a thought. I probably would have shrugged you off like, what are you on about, man? But now, a few months later, the perspective on things have changed so much. Like, it's actually crazy how things can change. This is sort of a side note, by the way, but it's actually really crazy how things happen. But anyways, let's get on with the point, shall we? So I've already painted the situation. Whenever I sort of dwell into this, you know, delve into this sort of world of self-pity or whatever, you know, as you look at other people around you, they're graduating or whatever I just said before, you know, all of that kind of stuff, I take a back and sort of get a very, very, very macro perspective on things, on just life in general, really. I start to think like, you're young, you're super I'm 20, dude. I'm just 20. I'm super you know the quarter life crisis I talked about? That generally is a thing at 25 apparently, and I can do everything and fail at everything for the next 5 years of my life and still have my entire life ahead of me. Like, it's actually, I'm like, you're super young, what's going on? I'm like, it's actually crazy. It's you die. Time at this age is the big, I sound like Gary Vee. Time at this age is probably the biggest perspective that we all have with us in our age, amongst others, but time is the biggest aspect, really. You're super young. You just gotta think that through. And if that doesn't work, like thinking about that perspective stuff, if that doesn't work, I sort of go to my biggest inspiration, my dad. And this is quite a personal story, but I'll still tell it. Maybe it'll help some people. My dad is a legend. He's actually genuinely a legend, and he's really inspiring to me. He started his career when he was in India. Obviously, he was working there in the hospitality industry, and he left all of that. He left everything that he built up and everything that he had to come to this country, out of his comfort zone, at the age of 40. Think about that. At the age of 40, that's double my age at the moment. He left all of his comfort zone, everything to start a new life, start a new goal that he had, because he always wanted to go abroad, as most families in India do. You know, the pipe dream is, oh, I want to go to US or UK. I don't think is as much, but US is probably like the biggest thing. Like, oh, I want to go to US and settle down or whatever. So he did. He started at 40, came here, left his comfortable life, got into all of intricacies of the problems of whatever the complications that just part and parcel of immigrating to a different country, just so that he could start a new life. He did that at 40. What the hell is stopping me from achieving? And the thing is, he got success with it. He started at 40, and he's built everything that he has now around him at the age of 40. He started that at 40. So what the hell is stopping me from achieving success at this age, when I'm blessed with a million more resources than he had at his disposal at that time when he started everything? It's crazy to think that, and that's sort of the perspective. If nothing else works for me, that always does, and it always has. Like, I could do I'm 20 right now. I could just gain experience and do nothing else. Just gain experience until I'm 40, and I'll be and I'll still, you know, that's sort of when my dad started as well. So what, you know, it's obviously, I'm not saying, you know, you've got to wait till that long to start or whatever. Don't do that. But what I'm trying to say is that if he can, why can't I? And he started then. I've got so much resources at I've got the bloody I've got the damn internet in my hands. I've got this phone, I've got this laptop, I've got so many resources, and it's actually crazy. And I'm complaining about my life. Like, it's genuinely weird. Like, whenever I'm starting to think like, oh, my life is gone, my life is just, nothing's gonna happen to me anymore. Most of you know, I haven't gone to university. I'm planning to go soon, but because this COVID has sort of changed. I'll get into that in a different video, but this COVID has sort of changed my plans a lot. I'm gonna go into a different video, but what is gonna stop me? What do I have to lose? Nothing. Literally nothing. I've got everything that needs to be built around me. I've got the propellant, if that's the word. I've got the propellant, and I'm young. God damn it, I'm young as hell. But if nothing else works, my first sort of port of call is taking like a really big macro perspective on everything. If I'm feeling down, if that doesn't work, I go to this example, always, and has always proved well, always, and it's true. I think we have a bad relationship with time. Again, I'm sounding like Gary Vee here, but we really do. I think we really do. And careers are long. If you think about it, careers are really long. I'm gonna go with my example that I did before. If I start at 25, I'm 20 at the moment. If I start at 25, I have 40 odd years, 50 or whatever to work. I don't know what the retirement age. I think it's 67 or for males, I think, but it's gonna go up soon anyways, because we're all living to a bloody 100 years, I think. But careers are long, man. Careers are really long. 40, 50 plus years. So what if I took a few years here and there? So what? It doesn't in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. And if you're anyone like me, and if you're worried about, well, if I start late, getting to that top level of work will be really difficult. Most corporates, I don't know, I'm not talking about every industry here, but most corporates where it's not extremely competitive, like not like IB or something where it's super competitive. Most of them, the average time to get to like a higher senior level position is probably like about 10 years anyways. 10, 15, give and take a few years here and there for differing industries, but about 10, 15 years. So by the time I'm 35 or something, 35, 40, whatever, I'll be in that top level bracket. After that, I have 20 years to be in that top level or whatever, and just work and whatever. So what I don't like, it's crazy, and I'm not complaining about this, because it's and I know some people say, oh, you might die tomorrow. Well, yeah, I suppose you could, but like, I know some of you will probably say or think that, oh, man, you could die tomorrow. What are you on about? I know you could, but if you think about probability, the likelihood of that happening is quite low. There are outliers to this sort of thesis that I'm preaching or whatever, but chances are you'll probably live to that age, the retirement age and beyond, and you'll have a fruitful life. So you can have a career, if you can have a really good career, and if you did something at this age and you sort of meandered about, and then eventually you tried it, you didn't like it, screw it, you did something after whatever, didn't take the traditional path, that's always going to be available to you. You can always do that again. Taking 3 years, for me it's been 4 years that I've been out of college, yeah, and it'll probably be more by the time I get to university. No, it'll actually be 4 years when I do end up in university next year, fingers crossed. But so what? It's only been 4 years, and I've gained a wealth of experience in the last 4 years. I have truly gained so much experience about just life in general, like whatever I know about handling money or handling relationships or whatever, just general life stuff I've learned over the last 4 years. Because academics, as much as they're good and as much they're important, they don't teach you about general life. They don't teach you about, you can only go so much with academics, if you know what I'm trying to say. So it's crazy to think that the last 4 years I've grown so much as a human being, and I don't think that I would have been where I am in terms of my knowledge. I'm not saying I'm a guru or anything. Like, I wouldn't be where I am in terms of my knowledge about life in general, just how to handle things around me. So it's all about experience. And luckily I haven't for the last 4 years. Although I've been out of education, I haven't been I haven't been doing nothing. I've been working constantly. I've been learning different stuff. So it's always good. Anything that you can do is good. And what if I have meandered about? If I go to an interview some other time, and they ask me, what's the break from college from that? I was trying out new stuff. I was trying out different things. It didn't work is a different story, but at least I tried, right? My biggest fear in life is I'm probably going to be getting to that age when I'm like about to tapkao, if you don't know what that means, about to pass away. And on my deathbed, I'll be like, damn it, I should have tried it. I should have just tried it and see what happened. I'd rather try it and fail and crash and burn really hard and take solace in the fact that, well, at least I tried it. It didn't work is a different story, but at least I tried it. I had the courage, I had the audacity to just go out of the norm and try it, but I still did it. If it didn't work, it didn't work. Whatever, it doesn't matter, does it? But I had the audacity to do it, which I feel is important, at least especially at this age, which is when you can, because we don't have all the baggage with us. You know, once you're 30, I don't even know what I don't know what age do people marry. I don't know, or have kids or family, whatever. I don't know. But in your 20s, you don't have the baggage behind you. After 30, the baggages start to add on one after the other, and it's much harder to take massive risk. But people do it then as well. People do it then. I've seen people taking, my dad as an example, taking risk at the age of 40. I've seen other people taking risk at age 50. Heck, KFC, the Colonel Don, he started KFC at 62, I think, or 60 or 62. I mean, dude, seriously, it doesn't matter. KFC is really the biggest global food chain out there nowadays. I mean, I'm on par with like McDonald's and stuff. So yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So, in terms of where I started from, you feel behind in life. It's a very normal thing to happen at this age, I think. And I was talking to a lot of people about this, and I feel like it's quite natural. And my biggest advice is, because I'm still going through it, so I don't know, like, I can't really teach you anything like, oh, this will definitely work. But what works sporadically for me is taking that massive macro perspective, or looking for examples around you, or take the example that I gave you and think like, well, screw it, I've got long to live, touch wood, fingers crossed or whatever, and so what if I meandered about a bit? I gained experience, right? So it doesn't matter. So yeah, keep that in mind, boys and girls. I'm gonna try to keep that in my mind as well, and I hope I don't forget about it. So boys and girls, I think this video has gone on for quite a long time. I didn't expect it to go on for this long. I've got a lot of other points that I want to discuss, so I think what I'll do, I'll sort of break it down into like different chunks and sort of make it like sort of a mini series, maybe like 1 or 2 videos. I'm thinking of getting on a person as well on this podcast to sort of help me with this, with all this. Maybe you'll see him in the next video. It's going to be a continuation of this, and it'll be quite interesting to see what other people's opinions are. So yeah, I'm going to cut this video off over here. I hope you guys somewhat enjoyed or gained some, even like a modicum of like value from this. I hope you did. But yeah, if you didn't, I'm sorry I wasted your time. but thank you for watching. As always, I'll catch you in the next videos. Adios amigos.